Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Good Deeds Note Investing Open Mic Night. Tonight, we are joined by several friends, collectively known as the usual suspects, and my lovely co-host, Chris Seveny. Oh, and I'm Gail Greenberg. Hey. I'm so selfless, I forgot myself.
Hey, Gail, and good to see you tonight. And also for everyone who's on tonight, thank you for attending. And if you have questions or topics while Gail and I start, feel free to put them in the chat. So, Gail, I do have to ask as part of our what just happened, how was your event this evening?
Yeah, so I tried Chris's patience once again by almost being late to the podcast tonight because I went to a bottle feeding and snuggling session with baby goats and lambs and chicks, as it turns out. But I found out chicks don't really drink milk. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Oh, yes, you did. For goodness sakes. Yeah, have you ever tried to milk a chicken? It just does not work at all. But, it was... someone has goats. Oh, David Chance just put my goats up for the evening. He tucked his little snugglies in. Yeah, they were all wearing onesies and diapers. It was very, very cute. But I have to say, the goats and lambs were not particularly into it. They were just kind of meh. So I felt kind of bad. I didn't really want to, push myself on them. So we actually didn't stay late.
I thought it'd be exciting. And, for me, my excitement today was getting a call from a water department saying, this property that you're listed as the owner on, we read the water meter and it's been averaging about 5,000 gallons a day.
It's not even pool season yet.
So I'm like,
no, this is not another one of your filled up basements, is it?
So here's, and it's actually, hold on, is there anybody on here? Is part of my JV? No.
Are we hiding this information from that person, or are we?
So I got to email them. But so I then actually was on the phone with my favorite attorney, and because this borrower has actually been on a repayment plan. And I said, he goes, what now? I said, yeah, there's 5,000 gallons of water coming in somewhere. And he said, oh, we deal with this all the time. He goes, do you want me to handle this for you? And it's like, you can see the lights behind me shining down. That was like the light shining down on me. I'm like,
yeah,
absolutely. And he's like, okay. So he actually called the water department and got in touch with them. And at first I was like, they said the meter was in the house, so they needed to get in the house. And I'm thinking, yes, because for most people who don't know this, typically water departments take care of any leaks up to the meter. And everything on the other side of the meter is taken by the owner. And in 99.9% of cases, the meter is usually out in the street or in the right of way, and it leaves the house. So I guess my attorney ends up getting a call from the county who says, oh, no, this borrower is well aware of the situation. It happened over a year ago and they were supposed to repair and didn't. So guess what I did? Shut the water off. So
oh, they'll just do that? Like you can do that?
Yeah. So my attorney confirmed I could. And borrower actually, my attorney was calling, emailing the borrower, trying to get in touch with her. And allegedly she works nights and was sleeping during the day and woke up to all these messages and no water. And my attorney's like, well, because there's 5,000 gallons of water pouring out somewhere, so you need to fix it. And also gave her quotes for 2 people. And she, noted that she has her own plumber. So we want to make sure that it's a licensed individual. But now she's pretty much forced to have to take care of it pretty quickly if she wants any water.
Okay, so how can there be 5,000 gallons of water coming out of something in your house and it's not causing a huge problem?
So allegedly, when it happened, I guess, a year ago. I guess there's a basement, but also a crawl space under portion of the house. And I guess it was in the crawl space, but the
Mhm.
basement was also very damp. But yeah, I don't know how you wouldn't notice unless you haven't like gone down to your basement. But if
Yeah. Don't you hear a sound of rushing water?
well, actually, here funny
There are
story.
people whitewater rafting in your crawl space?
Well, funny story is I rented a home at one point in time that had an underground water tank, and because it had the it had the subfloor radiant heating. And when we moved in, we said, hey, there was no water. So a guy goes, oh, go in the closet, turn the valve on. So I went and I turned the valve on, and there were two valves. So I turned them both on. One of them was actually for the underground tank that
Oh.
had a leak in the backyard. It was wintertime. So I'm like, why is there so much, water collecting and stuff? And then we got the first water bill, and I sent it back to the tenant, the owner of the property. I'm like, hey, look, you told me to do this and you got a leak. This isn't my problem. It was a $1,200 water bill. So, and you didn't hear the water rushing. It was just,
Yeah.
So
Underground, huh?
the
Wow.
joys of node investing.
Yeah, well, this is so interesting because as I complained to you recently, I have a vacant house in Anderson, Indiana, little tiny 700 square foot house. I got an electric bill for this past month of $800. That's not even the heater. The heater's gas and a different company. So it's pretty, it's not funny because I don't know yet what they're going to decide. They went to investigate this week and I haven't heard back yet. But interestingly, in Anderson, it's the same company, Anderson Public Utilities, that supplies electricity and water. And I could see on the bill there was 0 water usage and then like a jillion kilowatts of electricity. So it was pretty easy to make the case that nobody's there, water-wise. But I don't even know what could be causing this. One of the great mysteries of node investing.
Probably have
so many.
Well, we've had houses in the past that haven't had water and people living in them, and
yeah, that is true. I shouldn't say that happens, but yeah.
So okay, good. So I think nice little story for people, just of some of the things that can happen in the lovely note world. And I know last time I was pounding my chest because I had the borrower who made basically 2 payments to me, one the reinstatement, one the payoff, and is my good news. And of course now I gotta come back with.
For every borrower like that, there's like several like this one. But we only talk about the good ones because that just sows seeds of envy among everyone we know.
I like talking about the bad ones. I mean, because it gives people a perspective, and that's why I think a lot of people enjoy listening to our podcast. Is we make it real. I mean, we're not sugarcoating it. We have some good things happen, but we have some pretty bad things that happen too.
I know. We're here to embody the notion that you can survive it all.
So, in regards
so I actually have another what just happened that I would really like to share because it involves some buddies of ours, the guys at PaperStack, Brett Berkey and his all his colleagues over there. So I just kind of put up 3 notes on PaperStack like a week ago, I'm going to say. Not knowing what to expect, whether anything would really happen, because there's a lot of platforms like that where you put stuff up and nothing really happens. But somebody got interested in one of them, and I had the opportunity to have the full PaperStack experience. And I have to say, those people, they're like nannies. Like they literally take care of everything. They put your jammies on and they make sure everything happens. Like they even down to, this was a note and not a CFD. So, they create the allonge and the assignment of mortgage and like put it up, and you just have to sign it. And then they send you a mailing label and you just have to mail it, like put it in the envelope.
So next thing is going to be have them do power of attorney for you even. So
I don't know that they wouldn't or couldn't. The big thing is we're all pushing them to do CFDs, which now that I see how much responsibility they take for everything, like I kind of don't even know how they would do CFDs because there's just too many.
Yeah, especially in like Indiana, because you have to do the sales disclosure form as well. And, North Carolina also has a form that has to be filled out for taxes. So.
Yeah, and so I just did this in Memphis, the affidavit of property value, and then Michigan has their thing too, their form. Yeah, lots of forms.
Well, it sounds like, and David Chance mentioned that he just sold one there as well, that they cater to also, I think, people who are newer to the experience and need a little bit of hand-holding. And
yeah, if you ever want to know like what the steps are, just on paper set, because they will literally, they're just going to prompt you to do every single thing. This is pretty cool. They even have you send the collateral, even after you upload the collateral files early on, so the buyer can decide whether they really want to buy it or not. They have you send the collateral to like an independent reviewer person, and that person has to sign off. Like there's a lot of interesting kind of safeguards and just, safety nets built in. So, yeah. It would give me a lot of confidence if I was new to go ahead and buy something on there.
Good. So why don't we get into a few of the questions we have that rolled through. Sylvia asked about the CFD and who pays that water bill. And that is actually a state-by-state, got to be careful in regards to who is responsible. And Maryland, the borrower is on the property, but it will also stay with the property. And in most jurisdictions, it's the borrower, but it will end up staying with the property and not go to borrower. Certain states, water is usually the one that usually ties to the property. Electric usually stays with the borrower. But again, it depends on the state. And I know Indiana, starting on I think it's July 1st, just changed their law that it stays with the borrower even on a CFD. Or, because I know if it's a renter, it goes to them, but on a CFD, it goes to the homeowner. They just changed that law, and it's going to be the borrower's problem at that point in time.
Woo-hoo. So are you saying that's for water or electricity in Indiana?
All utilities.
Whoa. That is awesome. Anyone who's listened to me more than once has probably heard the tale of my $2,500 Flint delicious extra pure water bill that I had on a CFD. It actually was on there before I bought it, and I think I was a little unclear about that it was actually going to end up in my bucket. But the thing that's really interesting, so I just have to say something I tried, so maybe people will learn from this experience. So they told me that if my borrower had been a tenant, the water bill would have gone with her. But the fact that she had a land contract, it was mine. Like, this to me is completely insane logic. I don't know if it makes sense to anyone else, but after they knocked me down with that one, I kind of thought about it for a while, and I called them back and got a different operator, and I said, yeah, well, by the terms of my land contract, when she defaulted, she became a tenant, right? Because
yeah.
And they were like, oh, that's really good. If you had come in at that point and notified us of the change, completely different story. They always get you one way or the other. So everybody in Flint, when they default, and maybe this would work someplace else too, it's definitely worth a try. If someone defaults, by all means call the water company if there's a big and growing water bill and just say, hey, they're a tenant now. I'll show you the contract.
We did have a question as we talked about defaulted borrowers. They're your friends. How long do you wait to start legal when a borrower who's been paying then stops?
This is a very good question, because I have been immersed in selling a bunch of stuff, and I have not been watching all my notes as closely as I normally do. Normally, I check every Monday to see who's paid and who hasn't, and people don't really go too long. But I kind of for 3 months didn't really pay that much attention. So now I'm finding out there's like a couple of people who haven't paid since January and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I feel some confusion about what to do because these people, this is the good deeds versus good sense part of our business. Like, yes, I know I should kind of drop the hammer on them, but one lady has cancer, like, it's very difficult. I feel like, our mentor was very clear on this. He goes, if they don't pay, they don't stay. And having given someone one chance to get consistent again, if they stop being consistent, you then just like, okay, no mercy. We're going ahead. What do you do, Mr. 70?
So it's really case by case, and it goes back to, is the borrower communicating with you? If there's no communication, then basically, so let me step back and kind of tell you my process. I'm going through this right now. Loans get boarded with Madison. The hello letter went out in early mid-March, so it's been about 30 days. I had on April 9th, there had been no contact, so I had Madison send door knockers out. So I'm waiting for the door knocker reports to see if the people, so it was 5 assets that I had send out since April 9th. So I'm guessing the door knockers showed up because 2 of them called in and made payments. So basically, and sometimes there's a transition period where, they didn't open the mail to see who the new servicer was, and the check may have been sent to the old servicer. So sometimes that happens. But typically after the door knocker, if there's still no communication, door knocker will go on 2 occasions, and there's still nothing, then I'll start with sending the demand letter, and just to really, get the ball rolling to, force them to communicate. I've had borrowers. Go ahead. Looks like
I was going to say, how much do you pay for a door knocker each visit?
It's on Madison's website, so I think for 2 visits it might be $75.
So it's pretty close to what a demand letter would cost in a lot of places.
Yep.
Right. So why don't you just send a demand letter? I mean, isn't that more galvanizing than a nice guy knocking at the door?
I like to, sometimes even, the demand letter goes, ignored and stuff. And, sometimes it's just, do you have to send a door knocker? No, I kind of just do it as a courtesy to give them one last chance, because sometimes the door knocker will actually get them on the phone with Madison, so they can actually get the right phone number and stuff. And that's when you can really tell, I think, with the door knocker, if they're going to play ball with you or not.
Right. So I think I told you when I was really new in this business, there are not many note investors that I know in the Philadelphia area, but there is one. And he told me, we were just talking about tactics, and he said, I just start legal immediately whenever I get a non-performer. And I was like, oh, that's like so harsh. But, now I kind of get it, because you spend an awful long time, waiting for someone to respond. But if you send a demand letter, I mean, when they see, like, obviously a lot of people who owe money, they don't just owe money to us, they owe money to a lot of people, and they're kind of they're sort of in their, they're in their fort with the drawbridge up, and they're not really, opening mail, answering the phone, anything that might be bad news, they're not really, going to take that chance. So I agree. I mean, sending a demand letter might not get opened, but I feel like it has a lot of gravitas, and, for someone who is going to try and fix their situation, I think they do, generally speaking, respond to a demand letter and really get their attention. It just gets things moving a lot faster, like maybe not in the friendliest way, but we can be friends after they start paying again, then we'll be like very good friends. But
Yeah, so again, to answer the question, it really depends. One thing that depends on which your attorney, some people will literally once the loan is boarded, if it's past due, send a demand letter. And, that's really, I don't. And the reason why is the hello letter. If you read what the hello letter states, it talks about, there's this much owed. And if you have any dispute of this debt, you have 30 days to comment on it. So trying to send a demand while they have the option to still dispute it. If you sent a demand letter and on 29th day they disputed the debt, then your demand letter is technically really void. And some borrower could get an attorney and even comment that could be a
A violation.
violation. So
Mm-hmm.
so
Okay, so, but I think what Sylvia actually asked is after someone has been paying, like say you get them to start paying again and then they stop. Like that, I find that really tricky because by then, we've got some history together. We've already, we thought it's like someone you weren't sure you should trust, and then you decided to trust them, and then they betray your trust, and it's just like.
And it goes back for me, it's case by case. I mean, I've got some borrowers that have called in and said, hey, look, I can't make the payment this month, but I'll try and catch up next month, and fine with that. I have others that say, yeah, I'm mailing it out on Monday, and then 2 weeks later, nothing shows up, and then the person goes dark, and then they call back again and say, oh, I'm going to mail it out this and this day and stuff. And when that happens and it's been a repeat offender on that, that's when sometimes I'm just like, I'm sorry, but you have to do a full reinstatement, and I can't accept partial payments.
Right, we're done. Yeah, I have to confess to you, I'm a massive coward. Like I have sold things where I just knew I just couldn't make it work. Probably the only thing that was gonna, was probably gonna end up in a foreclosure, and I just don't. With some people, I just don't have the, the taste for a foreclosure. So I'd rather sell it.
And what I'll say is those types of deals where you have the borrower who starts and stops payment all the time, typically are the ones that make the least amount of money. And the reason why is they'll make a payment or two, then you'll start foreclosure or forfeiture process, which will cost you, $400 or $500. Then they'll reinstate the loan, but then, you racked up new legal fees. Then all of a sudden they didn't have enough escrow. Then you pay the taxes, and you may take a 40,000 CFD that say you paid, 18,000 for, but then you paid another 2 in taxes, you get 2 in legal, and all of a sudden you're into this thing for 25,000. And granted, the borrower may owe 45,000 now, but if you to try and liquidate it, you're not making any money on it because you've had to put that cash out. And if you're trying to sell it and somebody wants it for 50, 55 cents on the dollar, that's what you're now into that thing for. So with the borrowers, what I found, the ones that I have where they've been like that, where they pay, they stop, they pay, they stop. And I've got one that literally misses 3 months. I file this stuff, and then he reinstates, and it's like this constant cycle. And then you're racking up $90 a month or $40 a month with the special servicing and everything. It can really roll. Your cost can really roll up pretty quickly. So
yeah, I'm doing a foreclosure right now in Pennsylvania. Someone who consistently pays every 3 months, and he won't. He was supposed to get on a payment plan with taxes, back taxes. He doesn't pay for his insurance. It's kind of like they throw out just enough, just enough crumbs that they think you'll be satisfied. And I mean, I don't really like to put anyone out of their house. But I think there's kind of 2 things to consider. One is sometimes people can't afford their houses. You're sort of enabling it in a way and kind of participating in the fantasy that they can afford this long. And I don't know that it really is doing anybody any favors. People have to come to terms with their reality and they have to live in reality. And us kind of, artificially supporting them in some unsustainable situation is not really particularly helpful, I don't think. I mean, I would certainly make, for disabled people, elderly people, very ill people. I just had a little old lady live in a house for like, 10 months for free because she just needed a lot of time to figure out what she was going to do next. And, it looks like I might even lose money on that house now because it's in such bad shape. That's the one with the $800 electric bill, mysteriously. Yeah. And then the other thing about, pressing forward legally, though, is that, a lot of people won't solve their problem until they are literally have one foot over the cliff, and for people like, I feel in a way, and maybe parents will understand this too, like you almost have to, some people can't really commit to a course of action or even put serious thought into it until they feel incredibly pressured. Like, they really are at the absolute wall. And, for people like that, it's actually kind of helpful that they get themselves into these situations, because then they will find, if it is possible for them to find a way, they will find the way. And then, if they can't do it, even under very, threatening conditions, then, they're not capable. They don't really have the resources. They're not long-term, they're not going to be successful long-term.
No, and it's, getting them to acknowledge that some people can't afford. Like, I've got a property now in a high tax state that there's $14,000 in past due taxes. And the borrower got on a payment plan with the county, and it's $600 a month as a payment plan, plus his regular taxes are $300 a month. So he's paying the county $900 a month. His principal and interest payments another $500, and all of a sudden he's like, I'll get on these payments plans, I can start paying. And I'm like, oh, you haven't paid in 4 months. What makes us think you're going to start now? And I made a payment to the county, but then the servicer go back and say, does this borrower realize your payment's going to be like $1,500 plus when you tack on insurance and everything? And all of a sudden it's like dead silence, because I think it's all of a sudden like, whoa, this is, $1,500 plus a month. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, you and I have both had situations where people, they could kind of come up with a chunk of money in order to get themselves a chance to be on a plan like that. And we're both like, look, this is not something you're going to be able to do for more than a few months. So like, I don't want to take your upfront money. Like, use your upfront money that you're going to give me to get yourself into the situation that's going to work for you, because this is not the one.
No, we did that with the asset up in the Northeast, where a guy was trying to come up with some money and stuff, and we, he filled out the credit application and stuff, and you looked at everything, and that's where, I think this is where lenders and debt collectors get a bad rap, because they don't care, they just want their money. And one of the things that I look for is I'm trying to be an advocate for borrowers as much as I can. And when I see things like, okay, this person wants to give me $2,500, but I know they're going to default in 2 months because they just can't afford this payment, I'll tell a servicer, please tell this person, like, explain to them that I don't want their $2,500 only for them to fail in 2 months. I'd rather, give them maybe cash for keys or something, or let them stay for an extra 3 months and then turn the house over, to get squared away, versus taking that money and let them start fresh, because you can see where, a lot of times you can see where this is going when you look at it.
Totally. Yeah. So that's where the good deeds part comes in. Like, do the right thing.
So, Sylvia mentioned that, servicing comments come in handy to see what it's like for borrowers and pulling teeth. One thing I'll mention about servicing notes is, sometimes, I do go through them thoroughly. One thing that I've learned is if you have a borrower who is either let's just say they have, more bankruptcies than children, or or they've, or if there's been a foreclosure and they've fought the foreclosure, or it's been a real long dragged out foreclosure, uh, or sometimes they've been able to stay in the house for like 5 years without paying.
Yeah.
They got something going, and there's something that you should really read into in that and really decide, is this something I want to step into?
It's so funny that you're saying that, because so Condor wanted to sell me a note in Philadelphia, and I live in Philadelphia, but I avoid investing here because it is notoriously incredibly borrower friendly and tenant friendly. Like, to the point where if someone breaks into your vacant apartment and is squatting in there, you have to go through a long, expensive eviction process with them, as if they were actual tenants who had paid money at some point. It's like absolutely insane. So this house was right near St. Joseph's College, which is, a student housing, like really nice 3-bedroom house in walking distance of the school. Student housing is very lucrative. I used to do student housing at another university here. And it looked amazing, but for some reason, the guy who was trying to sell this to me thought he should be really honest about the fact that the house was already foreclosed on. All I had to do was do an ejectment process on the guy. And then the seller starts telling me that it cost them like over $100,000 to do the foreclosure because this guy fought it every inch of the way. And I looked the guy up. I thought, oh, well, he must be out of money by now. He fought it every inch of the way. So I looked the guy up. He's an attorney. He's his only client. That just means, he could fight forever. So you have to watch out for those wily foxes who, show signs of being incredibly clever about fighting and, extending their time in places. Because if it's happened, it's like someone who's been divorced a bunch of times, like, that they know what they're doing.
Yeah. I had one where somebody brought a deal to me that they wanted to partner on, but they wanted me to manage it for them. And it was in Florida. The house was worth probably like 800 to $1 million. I think the balance was in that range, and the borrower was an attorney. And I looked him up, and he was a litigator. And I'm thinking, I told this guy, I go, you are nuts if you even think of wanting to buy this. I'm like, you're going against a guy who's in $1 million house. It's his own house, and he's a litigator. I'm like,
red flags.
Red flag, absolutely. So it's interesting that you always want to just try and figure out who you're dealing with. So
exactly.
Okay. What other questions we have out there? Bill, I see you're on. Bill, how you doing? What can we assist you on? Or David, Umberto, Johns, Paul, Richard. A lot of Johns.
It's so quiet out there.
It is quiet. So
I feel like we should bring someone on to enliven the panel.
Yeah, if anyone wants to join us, we'll be happy to.
It feels like talking about something that Bill, what do you recommend with a lumpy payer?
What is a lumpy payer?
Yeah, what's a lumpy payer?
So Bill, you should come like every 3 months. Bill, would you like to come join us?
Bill, pull up a chair, Bill.
So, someone you're talking about that pays every few months. Yeah, these are the painful ones. Like I said, I've got 2 of them right now.
Yeah,
And
they fill you with such confusion. Like, what do I feel about this? Do I believe in them? Do I not believe in them?
oh, he said he can come on, so let's bring him on.
Yay! I can see a little red slash through his microphone.
Trying to unmute him. Let me promote him, the panelist. So, hey,
Hello.
Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Hello there. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great.
So I think probably a lot of people know Bill. Bill's from Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. Is it, Bill?
Columbus area. Yep. Suburb.
Yeah, that's like a hot little area, except for the fact that everyone is fleeing Ohio with their investing.
Columbus is, well, yeah, note investing if people are fleeing Ohio.
Yeah. You'll be the last one there. Turn the lights off on your way out.
Well, I love my state, actually. I'll still be buying and investing here. So
I'll pass everything I have on to you, Bill.
Yeah. You got the field to yourself, Bill. So do you have or CFDs in Ohio now, Bill?
well, as long as you needed someone, I thought we could possibly talk about this note, and I'm looking for it right now. It was just funny you guys were talking about this just a little bit ago, because I just got sent this file today and am trying to work out just if I even want this. This note belongs to a friend of mine who kind of thought notes were going to be absolutely no work. And I know you're laughing, but, that's just kind of the background.
You got a rude awakening, did he?
It's like having a child. Oh, it's a piece of cake. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, nothing but ice cream and zoo visit.
That's exactly it. So now he's in this situation with this note, and just exactly that. And this guy's kind of a lumpy payer. That's kind of the phrase that I was taught. It's a lumpy payer. So, he pays every, 3 or 4 months, and then, he doesn't pay for several months. And then, that kind of practice just continues. So, was a little hesitant because I haven't really even looked through the whole file yet, but that was kind of the background that he told me. But
yeah.
What he wants, and it was kind of awkward because, I don't know if I'm going to be able to give him exactly what he wants.
So he wants to sell this to you.
He wants to sell it to me, yeah.
Okay.
What state is it in, Bill?
It's in Ohio. It's in Cincinnati.
Is it a note or a CFD?
It's a CFD, a land contract.
Okay. Is it over 5 years old?
That's a good question. Like I said, I'm trying to look that up right now. So
the one that I had with a borrower like this, what ended up happening was I'll say the perfect storm somewhat hit, because the borrower was 4 months behind. The payments were $500 a month, so they're over $2,000 due there. Then the forfeiture fees from Franco were like $1,000, plus we had just paid the taxes, which were $1,500. So we advanced the taxes, and that bumped the number up to like $4,500. And then I had told the servicer, like, hey, it's full reinstate, and let it go to forfeiture. And lo and behold, the guy came up with the $4,500.
Wow.
Which is good, only to, again, not pay for the next 3 months. And, and it's been a constant, struggle. And this is what I was talking about earlier about these, trying to get them. And a comment just came through about getting the borrower on an ACH. You can't force a borrower to get on an ACH. Like, you can't say, I'll only give you a mod if you get on an ACH. According to my attorneys, you can't. But, these are the ones, Bill, I'll be honest, that I struggle with the most, because you just keep racking up these fees of, the servicing costs and everything else. And, it's like you're putting money only to get it back, but you're never making any money on these deals. And
Right.
They're very difficult.
Well, that was kind of my thought process also. So the rough value of the house, at least according to the paperwork here, and yes, I would have to have this verified. I haven't done that yet, but the rough value of the property is $75,000. Mm-hmm. The unpaid balance on this note is, for rounded off, call it $51,500. Mm-hmm. And he is asking $38,500. And he's, God love him, he's trying to sell it. He's saying, yield if performing would be 13%.
Performing.
He's trying to sell it, he's working. But,
that is the key phrase.
Well, exactly. However, it's not performing, and that's why he's looking to sell it. So, like I said, I just literally received this whole packet just this afternoon. So I'm certainly not an expert in this file yet. But right off the top of my head, I'm thinking that sounds like, what is that? Probably 2/3 or more than value there.
You want 75%.
Is it? Yeah, I was thinking it was around 70. So, right off the bat, I was thinking, that's awful rich for, I guess a sub-performer at best would be the best way to put this. And, I would like to help him out, but
not at your expense.
Well, exactly. I don't want to have his problem become my problem, at least not at that price. Do you guys have any questions or any suggestions other than, just offer him a lot less money? I can try to kind of look through the file on the fly if you'd like.
Do you know how much he has in it?
No, he didn't tell me that, and I didn't. I
Do you
suppose
recognize?
I could ask him that. We are very casual friends, not really good friends.
You want to know a secret on how to get an idea?
Well, yeah.
Look at the deed that's recorded in his name. Usually will say what he paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Certainly in Ohio, everything is.
My notes and bolts for everyone is, land contracts are transferred deeds, which you typically put what your purchase price was for it on the land contract. Now, you do have to be careful because, I had someone say, oh, you only paid $4,000 for this one. I'm like, yeah, because there's $11,000 in taxes that I paid off on it as well. So, there's that component to it, but you can, get a sense sometimes to see, if he paid, because here's the thing, Bill, if he paid $35,000 for it when it was a performing note, then there's nothing you can probably do to help this guy, because I don't think you're going to, bail him out and pay more just to bail him out on the deal. And that's
just because he wants some profit doesn't mean, the deal justifies that price.
I've seen what people have paid for things, and I'll go and look. I'm like, well, it looks like you paid roughly around this price for it, and unless you're going to take a big haircut, and they're like, well, I don't want to take a haircut. I'm like, well, I'm just not going to waste my time, on it. So
exactly, that was kind of my thought. Exactly, just on a very 15-minute surface, thoughts on it. I'm looking right now. There was a letter sent out on March 4th, so just over a month ago, for the borrower to remit here, just call it $3,000 here, just $6 short of that. Let's see. It looks like his next scheduled payment due date is November 1st of 18. So he's 5-6 months behind now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible.
It's not terrible, exactly, but not for 75% of UPB.
Right. Did you say this guy bought this as a performer and then it stopped performing, or it's always been a lumpy payer?
He bought it as a performer, and that's the thing I've kind of realized, actually. And this is kind of for everybody. In some ways, people think a performing note is automatically a quote unquote safer investment. But actually, I've come to realize some performing notes, it's kind of like buying a stock at the top of its value. If it stops paying, then you just really overpaid for a non-performing note. So, there's risks to performing notes and there's risks to non-performing notes, really both ways. So, that's a risk that this guy had on this one that didn't appear to work out.
I actually prefer performing CFDs versus performing notes. And the reason why is you have more upside, because you can get in, when we step back, performing CFDs with equity, because like this one, yes, there's equity in it, and he could try and go after that. But one thing I'll tell you within Ohio is when you go that first forfeiture hearing, if the guy shows up, he's gonna have something, and typically the case will get continued because he'll say, I just need some more time. And most courts aren't gonna throw somebody out who appears for the first time who's only 5 months behind on their mortgage. They're gonna say, try and work with them or get them on a mod. Did you offer them a mod? So it's one of those things where it's not, when people think forfeiture, you can get it in and out and done in 2-3 months. In certain states like Ohio, because I'm dealing with one there, it's going to probably take 6 to 9 months. So, but you're right. No, buying performing notes can sometimes be at the top. And, it's sometimes also the other thing that's interesting with, notes and CFDs, sometimes the exit strategy is if the borrower actually turns around and becomes performing, that can actually provide the lowest return sometimes what the monthly payment is. So,
yep, you are correct.
So
let's see here.
Roy asked a question if there's any way for you to work a deal to maybe manage it for him and take a piece of it or something.
Yeah, it's
interesting kind of
your money into it.
There. I like that. I don't know. That could be. It's certainly something, worth looking into. Like I said, I just got this file today. It was just a week or two ago he even asked me about it. So that could be, but I kind of get the sense he
wants his money.
Well, like I said, he kind of looked at this as kind of like a glorified bank account, that pays, 11% instead of 1%,
Right. So I don't know what he paid for it and how much income he's gotten from it. But to me, it feels a little bit like he's, eaten the ice cream bar and he's handing you the stick and he wants 2/3 of what he paid for it.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. He's a good guy. I mean, I really, really like him. It's just, like I said, it's kind of a bad situation, and I don't want it to become my bad situation.
Well, if you're a more experienced investor than he is, why don't you just coach him through it? Because, as much as we would all love to dump at a profit the deals that don't go well, I mean, the reality is the only way to exit without losing money is often, see it through.
Yeah.
You have to stay in it.
I suppose I could do that. He's You know, you could call him a motivated seller, at least partly. You know, maybe he's not motivated to come down on price yet. I mean,
Yeah, not at 70%. He's not that motivated.
He's
Well-
probably looking at it saying, well, you foreclose, you're getting it at 50 cents on the dollar is probably what he's trying to say.
yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. You know, he even said, you know, probably your best bet, kind of like Gail was saying earlier, he just doesn't want to foreclose and go through the process. He just wants to, you know, essentially be done with it. So, you know, like you said, I'm glad you told me actually this. It's not like going there would be really quick and easy to get him out at the first forfeiture hearing or something. That's interesting.
Yep. Not a, like I said, it's not a quick process. You know, I'm on, let's see, we filed.
Oh, you know what? It's more than 5 years old. This was, this contract for deed was effective. I'm just looking at it now on December the 16th, 2013.
I would run like you're being chased like a
Yeah.
deer.
Yeah. So that's going to be a full foreclosure, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's
Minimum.
expensive.
And the most you can get is a payoff. So you don't get the equity.
Yeah. The most I would get is the 51,000 UPB.
And it's going to cost you, a lot more than the 38,000 you're paying for it to get,
I mean,
get
I'd
the
be looking
51.
I'd be looking at what, half that, maybe 25,000 minus 5,000 or so for foreclosure, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
So, and my guess is, again, he probably paid, unfortunately, in the 30s for it, and now it's only in the 20s. And, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes, like, you know, the one I had in Ohio, you know, that was one where it's tough to cut your losses, but sometimes it's just the best thing that, you know, it's one or two things. You know, if this is in an IRA and he doesn't need the money at any point in time, maybe he tries to see it through and, you know, take it a little longer or something. But, you know, if it's something where, you know, people have cash that they need immediately, then sometimes you're better just bite it and take the loss.
Bill, do you know who he bought it from?
You probably know who, Gail.
I was going to say, is it the same people you bought your first one from?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my. Yeah, they're kind of famous for the exploding performing note.
Yeah, well, like I said, at least I got smarter and learned some more. This wasn't me, but
You want to share who that is?
I don't know. You know, why are we protecting people? I mean, I feel shy about saying these things too, but
It's a seller. You didn't say anything negative about him. You just, you know, there might be some connotation in there, but
we're talking about, okay, so someone in Texas. Yeah, it's been around a long time.
well, I'll just say it then because I don't want someone else in Texas to
Yeah.
be tainted by association. It was bought from Colonial Note Group.
Colonial.
okay. Mhm. So,
Yeah, so
So that'd be
Bill,
really his only. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
did you want to share, Bill, your experience, like your first note? It's kind of amazing.
No, not tonight.
Let's just say Bill has been there and back, and you worked it out, but it took a lot of time, right? And a lot of patience.
Yeah,
So-
but it's a performing note now.
Yeah.
They
awesome.
paid on
And
time
this-
every single month.
Yeah, and maybe this one could be as well. So I'm
Well,
sorry, we're teasing everyone.
I had to get
Sorry.
I had to get a whole new borrower now. I mean, you know, so that worked out differently. But I think really foreclosure is going to be his only. It's going to be by far his best option. Then it's just going to take him a year or so to work it out. But I think, you know, even if he bought it in the 30s, you know, he might end up making a little bit of money if it goes to foreclosure. Then.
Yeah, well, certainly he can't. I mean, you can't pay a premium for it and still make
Oh
money.
yeah. Like I said, I mean, you know, just with that little bit of information now, just probably around 20,000 or so is going to be my top price. And I expect him to say no, and he should. So maybe I can help him through foreclosure.
Then you're off the hook because you tried.
his best bet would be to offer that guy like $7,500 to walk
To cash for keys, yeah.
Cash, because when you look at what he's probably paying in taxes a year, I bet taxes are probably $2,500 to $3,000 on the place, and what it's going to cost him in foreclosure and the time. He's going to rack up $10,000 between those two things.
7,500 would be a bargain.
Yeah.
But if the guy's paying at times and he hasn't been non-performing for that long, the guy may not be, emotionally ready to go.
Yeah.
So, the important thing for you, Bill, and you're the one we care about. We don't even know this other guy. Like, don't you do it.
I'm not, guys. I appreciate that, though.
So, Bill, why have you on? We haven't spoken in a while. I know you have your Sunday evening at 8 p.m., your Facebook Lives, which are very educational. What else do you have going on? And why don't you tell everyone else who listens a little bit about you, what you got going on in your company?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Bill Griesmer. My company is Stonegate Capital, and I've been a note investor for, I guess, about 3 years now. And I don't know, I'm similar to Chris and Gail. I buy notes from I buy both performing and non-performing, actually, so that I guess makes me a little bit different. I'm not afraid to buy a performing note. I check it out very, very carefully. If it's really performing, I'll even buy it in a state that I don't really necessarily want to buy in. I bought a couple of performing notes last year in Missouri and Alabama, of all places. But, they were yielding 15%. One of them had a long-term pay history of paying their mortgage 1 month early every single month. I bought it. They were 1 month prepaid. And the other one, it's written very oddly. It's a fixed mortgage, but they pay a little bit more over time. Their payment does go up, although it is a fixed mortgage. So, yeah, I know, Chris, I thought that was really, really odd. But they're paying, and I'm really happy with it. I do every Sunday night around 8 p.m. I go on and do a short, about 5 to 10 minute video about note investing. That's my own kind of mini version of what you guys have going here. And I don't know, that's about it. I work with investors and go after tapes and everything, very similar to you guys. I really love your approach to this. I've been watching several weeks now, and you just have a little bit different twist than some other podcast folks.
Yeah, it's not all rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's great that you can, Chris touched on this earlier. It's great that you guys can do that.
And by the way, Bill, I've got assets in Montana and had one in Wyoming. So you think Missouri and Alabama are a little
or the wilderness.
Talk about buying anywhere.
I don't know. I was going to double check, Gail. This was one of the reasons I called you the other day, but we got cut short. Is I want to make sure I'm on your buyers list. Actually, I filled out the form, but I don't think I've gotten any tapes from you. So if you can get a chance later on, if you can double check them on there, that'd be great.
Yep, I'll make sure you're on.
Okay. Yeah, so I think everyone on here who's a regular listener certainly knows, but if you go to gooddeedsnoteinvesting.com and sign up for our mailing list, that is the way to get on the buyers list.
Yep.
Well, Bill, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on. It was very impromptu. I really wasn't prepared. I just got back from the gym literally about 8:15, and then I knew I had to jump on here. So, normally I'd, make myself look more glam, but
all I see is blackness anyway.
Yeah, your video didn't pop on, but
okay. Well, that's just
Oops.
We kind of, on podcast, people don't see anyways, but we'll put this on.
There you are.
There you are.
Hey.
It was, now that you mentioned it, I
Your
saw
sweaty old self.
it had a little bar through it now, so.
Got it.
There you go. I'm sweaty and got my Spartan shirt though.
There you go. So, yeah. I was actually going to say you should run away from this one like you do your Spartan races, but I couldn't remember if it was Spartan or Tough Mudder, because you've done both, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, now that we've nailed down that this is a similar situation to your first note, I feel like there's like a part of you that wants to probably rescue this guy, because as you too would have loved to have been saved from your impossible situation. But, we have to just put our clear thinking hats on in these situations. Like, he's got to have his adventure just the way you did.
You know what, guys? I mean, I hear you saying that, and Lord knows I had some choice language at times, but you know what? I learned so much more through that process than I could have in any other possible way.
And didn't it make you less afraid? I mean,
yes.
You already kind of had a lot of things happen to you that everyone is afraid of.
Yeah, I already had the Amityville horror of notes, so I know what it's like to buy a note thinking it's performing, and, to have it go non-performing. I did door knocker, just what Chris said, and then I moved to the notice of demand, and then we tried to modify, and they were stringing us along, and we moved to the notice of demand, and then, they said they would leave, and then they didn't leave, and then they finally left again, and then, I went through two contractors, and, the whole seller finance process.
Wait, we have to add this detail since you've opened the door here. Well, once they left, we discovered what else went with them. There was no furnace, right?
Yeah, no furnace. Guys, I'm telling you, you could get I'll come back on. We'll do a whole nother.
Yeah, let's save this, Gail, for another horror stories, because we've done the one previously with Chad and Dan. We can clearly have one with Bill, and
we'll do the scariest ones for Halloween.
Kind of brings up the point that I've mentioned in the past too, is for people who have like 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever sitting there and stuff. Sometimes just buying a low dollar, performing note for 5-10 grand. The experience you get from that, just even learning the boarding process and all the collateral and that understanding, it is huge, because I'm not sure there's anybody out there that does any type of training on what to expect, once that occurs, because you really can't. I always say this is an apprenticeship business where you learn by, doing. And similar to like my whole work career has been in construction management, and there's no book that tells you like, oh, this is what's going to go wrong when the contractor is building the building. Every job is different, every project's different, and you just learn from those issues and mistakes, and this business is identical to that. Would you agree?
Exactly. And the point is then, you can come out okay. Like I said, I have now it's a fairly high quality, and I even sold it with a note and mortgage. I mean, I worked with FNAC to design the best possible value of a note. And I could go and sell it, I'm sure, this week, and I'd only lose just a little bit of money, like less than $1,000. And that's after everything.
10% down, 10% interest, 10-year note. Is that?
I mean, that would have been perfect, I guess. But, he was close. I think he had 9% down. I did have to do a 20-year mortgage.
To make the payment affordable, you have to do that.
Rate for an owner-occupant in Ohio is 8, but I did get 8. So, reasonably close to 10.
Right. So I just want to point out, like, to me, the most significant thing about you, your story and Chad's, and like all these people are still in the game. Like, they didn't let it hurt them or, scare them away. Like, you become sort of like a superhero after a while. You feel like very powerful when you withstand things and you get through them. Very little scares you after that. We actually did a whole podcast about fear and things that stop people from doing this. And, it's a shame because it is a fun business, and you take your lumps sometimes, but,
Getting that note, it was like my super soldier serum.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guarantee you the education you've learned from that. Now, you mentioned, Bill, you sell it this week or, you lose $1,000, but I would bet the education you got from that has allowed you to make a lot more money on other deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have paid a lot for that education instead.
You know, there's that education that taught you, and there's also taught you what deals not to maybe go after as well. So
Like this, like the Cincinnati one that we talked about.
Yeah. Tell the truth. Did you really need us to tell you maybe not this one at that price?
Some of the information I told you, I literally saw it 5 seconds before I told you. They just sent it to me several hours ago. I didn't realize that it was more than 5 years old already.
That's big. Yeah.
All I knew when I got on here was, you know, the UPB and the value and what he wanted. That's all I knew. So
if he wants to try and maximize value, and this is one thing you could, you know, mention to him is, you know, have him offer the borrower, instead of offering him a mod, say, hey, we'll give you a new land contract and reset the loan. Basically, from that standpoint, you know, the borrower would be current, but then he'd be in a new land contract at, you know, 100% of UPB. Then if the borrower defaults later on, then he's got recourse of the equity versus not. So,
yeah.
So Chris, we said before, you can't force someone to be on ACH. You also, can you make it a condition of your allowing them to stay that they have to sign a new land contract, or no?
well, you can, I mean, offer them, either say, you know, we'll offer you a, you know, to reset the payment and do a land cancellation and a new one, or, you know, the other option is to go through the price. I mean, I'm thinking that most borrowers, if you offer them to reset the loan and put all those payments to the end of the loan, that 9 out of 10 of them will accept that.
Yeah. Do they tend to know what your kind of bigger agenda is there?
My agenda is to try and get them back on paying.
Mm-hmm. And it's as simple as that.
So
He said that with a straight face, man.
No, he's such a Boy Scout, isn't he? Look,
so
ma'am, I just want to help you get regular again.
Well, no, I mean, look at it two ways. I mean, you know, you're resetting the clock on the borrower, so there's that, they get that benefit, and then, you know, you're giving them a brand new start. But if they fail, and, you know, again, you always tell them they maybe should seek legal advice to review things. You know, if they fail, then, you know, there's, you know, retributions that come with that. And you, again, it's, you try and work with them, but you also want to try and, you know, maximize value on your asset too. I don't think it's anything, you know, that's kind of, you know, I'll say doing something that, you know, is kind of unethical in any way, shape, or form. It's, you know, instead of doing a mod, it's just a new land contract. I mean, you're doing the same exact thing, but it gives you more protection.
Yep.
Yeah, and that whole thing about advising them to get a lawyer, I was in the final stages of working it out for someone to leave my dream house that I kept and I'm renovating, and they were like, you know, we strongly advise you to get an attorney. And I said to my attorney, like, do we have to put that in the letter? You know, that's like where it's like we're telling her, go get a lawyer and fight with us. And he's like, well, you know, the vast majority of people are not going to go get a lawyer. And, you know, if this comes to in front of a judge, you know, you want to be able to show that you told them they should go get a lawyer. Like, reflects well.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. It's 9:43.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one else gets sleepy as early as I do.
No, I'm tired tonight actually too. So,
Yeah. So, Bill, you're with us for our good night song. Do you want to start us off? There's no good night song.
Bill, any last?
The devil went down to Georgia earlier today. First time in a while I had heard that, so I could bust that out.
I love that song.
Gail, any last second thoughts?
No. Thank you. I just want to see quickly. Roy made a reference to a bullfighter that hides the sword in the cape. Is that your allusion for our lovely Christopher?
And again, you know,
bearing a new contract.
Well, and again, you know, all this information is, I'd say, relayed to the borrower as well. It's not, you know, again, like trying to undermine anything. It's, you know, it's not anything that is, like I said, it's, all the information is, explained to them and discussed with them on what all these options are and what they mean. So it's, it's something that, from that standpoint, I see that kind of tongue in cheek, but I, do reiterate that, certain things, it's just like in certain areas, I'm transferring a land contract now to a note. And, I've had the conversation with the borrowers because he's had some, violations on the property and so forth that keep getting put in my company. I have other assets in that area. And I basically told him, look, I can't cover these anymore and so forth, which are eventually yours anyways. We're going to just transfer this into your name at this point in time. And the borrower agreed, and so forth. But it goes back to just communication and being open about, the discussions that you have with these people. So, and really
Right.
the only state that I'd say it really truly benefits is Ohio, in that sense, because that's really, in Indiana actually has, I think, a 20% rule as well. But, for the most part, it's Ohio, which, I only headaches in Ohio is my new saying. So is what it stands for. And Bill, if you need any assets in Ohio, let me know.
And also, let me know then. I'm not saying I'm going to buy everything now, and there are issues, but it is my home state, and there's advantages to having it in your own state. So
no, it's people hate Maryland, and I love Maryland because I have so much advantage over everyone else because of the team I have in place. And same thing with Ohio, where if I see stuff, I'll start putting stuff your way because I don't have interest in it, but it might be in your backyard or in your wheelhouse. So
I have very, very extensive networking now in Ohio. It's some of the other, I'm working on a lot of things actually in Ohio. So I know a lot of contractors now. So yeah, let me know.
Well, I, unlike you two, I hate Pennsylvania. And the only reason it looks good is because it's next to Ohio.
Yeah, I hate Pennsylvania. I do.
I've had good luck in Pennsylvania.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm so over it. So. All righty, you guys. Every time we start to say goodbye, everyone starts a new topic. Are you guys now, are you done or what?
I'm done.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for having me on, though. It was fun.
It was great to see you, Bill. Do come back and share more stories with us and let us know what happens with this one. I think now we're all involved.
Okay.
And for all of you out there, thanks so much for joining us for another fun evening. It's always great to see you. Please remember to join us at gooddeedsnoteinvesting.com. Sign up for our mailing list for a first look at our tapes. Did you sign up on there, Bill, or did you sign something else? We have too many forms.
I'm gonna make sure Bill signed up.
Yeah,
we're putting you in.
I signed the form, but I've never gotten them. So maybe there was a glitch or something. So just look, and if not, I'll send me whatever. I'll fill it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Good.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Well, that's it from me. Good night, everybody. See you next time.
See you next
Good night,
time.
guys.
Thank you for watching, and go out and do some good deeds.